You tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Here we come, riding in once again. This time we're riding in on a little bit of a softball horse today. A little something different. But tell you what's not different. And that's random four horsemen shout outs of the day go to Shane Moore, The Bomb, Alpha Dragon Gaming FTW, and Heath Stokes are mounted up and saddled up and ready to go. And they're going to help us with today's college football invasion. Also, if you have any ideas for the show, hit me up on X at OCF Productions. Now, getting right to it here. Greg Sankey and the SEC canceled the softball championship this past weekend. There's a lot of people that are up in arms, a lot of people that have a lot of reasons to be pissed off about this. As I mentioned in the lead up, Oklahoma is a blue blood in softball. So it's a bread and butter sport for their program as a whole as an athletic department. So them being four-time defending national champions, it sort of affects them quite a bit there, Greg. But I've seen a few articles here and there, and some of it may not be all Greg's fault, although, like I said before, Greg Sankey is not one of my favorite people, even though I'm an SEC guy. Greg has made some decisions and said some things, along with my athletic director, Greg Byrne. It sort of pissed me off. You know, they've inferred that the fans need to be more giving to their program so they can, pay all these spoiled-ass athletes. And I'm not going to forgive them for that for quite a while. I hold a grudge sometimes because it's not on the fans to do it. But that's another topic for another day. Greg, as much as I don't like him, Greg has also made mention of making the SEC it's a league of its own and just breaking off from NCAA. I'm not a big fan of that either, Greg. But this right here may not be entirely Greg's fault. So I'm going to pull up a few articles here, and I'm not going to read them verbatim, but we will go over them and the little final points of these articles. Let me go ahead and bring up the first one for you guys out there. All right, this one's Greg Sankey is under fire after SEC softball championship game gets canceled. Well, no, duh. You knew there was going to be some. He should have known. It was written in the stars for the Oklahoma Senators to win the softball tournament title game after the heroics against Arkansas. I didn't watch that game, but from what I'm understanding, it was a big-time comeback win for the Oklahoma Sooners. But this team is going to have to settle to be co-champ instead. Wait, what? Unfortunately, that's indeed the case. On Saturday, Oklahoma was all set to take on A&M with the hardware on the line. Due to inclement weather, the tough decision was called not to play the game. However, it won't be rescheduled, with Greg Sankey and the SEC announcing that the Sooners and Aggies will be co-champs for the tournament. As you might be able to guess, Oklahoma supporters everywhere are not very happy. And I would gander to say, no disrespect to Texas A&M, that they're probably not happy either, but not as probably the level of Oklahoma, because like I said, this is a very important sport for the University of Oklahoma. On one side of things, we understand this decision. The last thing the conference wants to do is put in these young women at risk due to the weather and the softball selection show coming up Sunday. There was a race against time to try to reschedule things. Goes on to say that, however, Sankey and his team couldn't have tried to figure out things out and an attempt to have the game played on Sunday morning or early afternoon. The decision to just cancel the game outright felt like it came way too quickly. And I agree with that. They probably could have waited and seen how the weather was going to be. Although I know here in Tuscaloosa it was rain all day Sunday on Mother's Day. I just don't understand why they couldn't play the game Monday. Now, if they're going to declare someone to be the champ, I'm not sure who won the regular season. I haven't got that in front of me right now. Maybe y'all can help me in the comment section. But whoever wins, that's why I've always said, even in basketball, the winner of the regular season should get the automatic bid. That way you don't have bid stealers coming in and taking a bid away from the teams that might deserve it. All these conference tournaments should do, all they should serve is for teams that are on the bubble to get off the bubble. Like a team in basketball, for example, if they're like 18 and 14, they go in and win a couple of games and get to 20 wins, and it gets them in the tournament. But you shouldn't have a team like that's 12 and 18 get on a little run, a 4-day run, and get into the tournament at 16 and 18. So I've always been a proponent of declaring the regular season champion as the automatic bid getter. So if Texas A&M was the regular season champion, or Oklahoma was the regular season champion, then Oklahoma or Texas A&M, whoever is the regular season champion, should be the team that is declared the champion at that point if they can't play the game. I still don't understand why they just couldn't play the game Monday. The selection committee show could just go ahead and determine who they're going to make the number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever seed by the regular season format. And that's what they did for the most part, I think. They went back and they looked at some of the games that Oklahoma played against similar competition, because Texas A&M and Oklahoma did not play in softball. So they went back and took common opponents and took strength of schedule and all that other stuff, and that's how they come up with the formula, because this is why the game shouldn't have been canceled. NCAA Selection Committee Chair explains why Oklahoma was tabbed as number 2 seed. That in of itself, just that title right there in of itself explains why this game should have been played probably. They should have tried to play it Sunday. I think the weather was a little better in Georgia, and if they couldn't play it then, they could have played it Monday. But because they didn't even try to play it, Oklahoma gets dropped to number 2 seed. Now, it's probably not going to matter in the end, because last year Oklahoma was a number 2 seed because I guess they lost a regular season series to Texas, the Longhorns. And it didn't really matter because they went on to win the national championship. And this year might be the same formula for them. I don't know. But it still affected the seeding, Greg and Patty and all the other, and the Texas A&M softball coach, Trisha Ford, I think's her name. Y'all got together and made this decision. Getting to that right now. So as you can see, it absolutely had an effect and a negative outcome for the Oklahoma Sooners, and that's why so many people are up in arms. Because every seed matters in softball. Softball is a unique sport where the seeding actually does mean something, in my opinion. Now, let me bring up this other article for y'all. Patti Gasso reacts to the SEC championship game cancellation. There's too much at stake, says Patti Gasso. As Oklahoma and Texas A&M waited more than 2 hours for rain to pass in the Athens area, the two teams in the SEC came to a decision that the 2025 SEC softball tournament championship game would be canceled and the two teams would be co-champions. OU coach Patti Gasso detailed the conversation she had with Texas A&M's Trisha Ford about whether they should play the title game. The top 2 teams in the country, Gasso said the two coaches weighed whether there'd be any advantage to playing Saturday's game, which was already moved up from an original start time. Ultimately, they opted to be co-champions in the 2025 SEC softball tournament. Gasso pointed out the stakes of the looming NCAA tournament compared to the title game in the rain. Both coaches just got together and said, what is it worth? We're co-champions. It doesn't give us a big advantage one way or another. Sort of disagree with that. I know Patti Gasso, she's the goat of softball, but she's not always right. Sort of disagree that it does give you an advantage, Patty. He would have made you a number 1 seed. Texas A&M headed into Saturday ranked as the top team in the country, while Oklahoma came in at number 2. The Aggies also set number 1 in the RPI with the 5th toughest schedule, along with a 19-8 record versus top 25 teams. The Sooners, meanwhile, set number 5 in the RPI and have a 16th ranked strength of schedule, as well as an 18-6 record against the RPI top 25. So as you can see here, this wasn't really all on Greg Sankey. The two coaches got together and made a decision to cancel the game. Sort of surprising to me that Patti Gasso and Trisha Ford would do that, but they did. They did that because they said they didn't want, any undue risk in the NCAA tournament selection committee show coming up. But what they could have done is tried to play the game later that night, because I think the rain has subsided. To me, in my opinion, they jumped the gun too soon, and that is Greg Sankey's fault. Because Greg Sankey, while he can take into account their opinions, he also needs to use common sense and think to himself, well, we can cancel this game at any time today. We don't have to cancel it right now this morning. He could have waited until later in the day, say 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and if it wasn't going to be able to be played at 7 or 8 p.m., they could have played a night game, then at that point cancel the game. But they didn't do that. So I lay the blame on Greg fully right there, because he's supposed to be the leader of this conference, and he could have said, look, I know you guys think we should cancel this game right now, but let's just give it a few hours and see if the weather clears. That way we won't have this controversy. I won't be taking a lot of blowback, and make it a fair process for the NCAA tournament selection committee, and they won't get blowback either. And they could have played the game Monday, but they didn't do that either. So what they could have done is, if they decided that they couldn't play the game Sunday and wanted to play it Monday, which they weren't going to do anyway, the NCAA selection committee at that point could have sat down with each other and said, look, whoever the winner of this game is, see how easy this is, Greg, Patti, Trisha? Y'all got to take the fans into account here. I'm not trying to give you too much grief, because like I said, Patti's one of the greatest of all time in her sport. But come on, man. Y'all could have just sat down with the NCAA, Greg Sankey, and said, hey, the winner of this game gets the 1 seed. The loser of this game gets the 2 seed. How easy is that? If a common Joe and a common Sally in the know, even more so than all the media talking heads, haven't said that mantra in a while, like me and like all of you guys out there, can figure this out, why couldn't they figure it out? That's my only point. The game should have been played. And whoever the winner was would have got the 1 or 2 seed, and it wouldn't have affected anything any other way, because you would have still had, 3-4 days to still get rest for the NCAA tournament. That's all I'm saying. Y'all drop it in the comment section. Tell me what y'all think about all that. Tell me if you think it's fair. My assessment of the blame should be laid on all 3 people. Greg Sankey mostly, but Patti Gasso and Trisha Ford, they shoulder some of this blame too. And with that, I'm out of here. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Subscribe. I can't stress subscribe enough. It's free. It's absolutely free. You hit that subscribe button. Notifies you when we're up and on the air. Keeps the lights on. Pushes that algorithm. All those good things. Makes the party bigger. Also, there's a little heart option down here. $1 sign. And if you want to make a one-time donation, smash that heart. Throw a few dollars in the coffers. KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.